Welcome to the Mom Existence. What's up, everyone? I am so happy. Happy Thursday. I feel like I say that every week, but I genuinely love hopping in here and recapping the episode and putting it out for all of you guys. I hope everyone is I shouldn't say off to a good start, winding down the week. Okay, tomorrow's Friday. We love that. I just got my hair done. I got it a lot blonder, which I'm usually very blonde. I used to do like full blonde. And then I put in some low lights. I tried a little strawberry blonde flare in there. And you know what? I'm back to my roots. Quite literally, I went back. I blonded up those roots thanks to my girl Sarah. And I feel more myself. I feel happier. I was looking at older photos of myself sometimes and I was like, man, I loved my hair. I loved my blonde hair. I feel like it's just part of my identity. Anyway, she nailed it. So pumped. And then of course I went to the playground and it was so freaking windy. Of course, the day you get your hair done, it always like rains or something like that. So I'm trying to salvage it and hopefully it will look this good tomorrow, but I need a brush, let me tell you. Anyways, the Summer Blonde is back. We've got a great episode for you this week. My guest is Lauren McIntosh. She's a counselor or a therapist, kind of like whichever you prefer. I do ask her what her preference is. And I connected with Lauren because I was looking for someone here locally in Halifax. I just wanted to, it's not like a professional advice podcast by any sorts. Of course, if you are interested in working with someone like Lauren or Lauren herself, you can reach out. That's definitely not a problem, but this is her experience with motherhood. I wanted to understand what it was like being a therapist and specializing in perinatal and postpartum therapies, what it was like for her before not having a child, focusing on those domains, and then having a child and seeing if there was a big difference or what that experience was like talking to women and now fully understanding the full spectrum of being in their shoes, if that makes sense. Anyways, we connected a while ago. We had an amazing intro call. It was one of those ones I probably could have just hit record and recorded the whole call. And we kind of just talked about like some of the things that we both experienced and then normalizing some of the things we experienced because you feel like, oh, this isn't normal or no one else is thinking this or no one else doesn't like being pregnant or is so upset and has the baby blues. And she also does outline some things like what to look out for or like what certain things could mean if they're a little more serious in her experience. But again, this is not a professional advice podcast. It is kind of her own perspective on motherhood plus her as an expert, for lack of a better word, in this domain. Anyway, she is just lovely. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Definitely go and share this episode with a friend, subscribe. Every little bit of love means a lot and it helps me out. I'll see you guys right back here next week. I'm getting back into doing kind of some different formats of podcasting. I shouldn't say back, okay? I'm thinking back in the day when Sarah and I podcast weekly. We put Rival and Queen out every single week for years. It was a grind, but I didn't know if I could do that and keep up with that cadence with my new life and my mom life. So I was focusing on the 2 a month, and now I am focusing on being a little more present on here, sharing my own stories, having fun and sharing people's expertise and experiences and doing some exciting and fun interviews. So we are going to be doing one a month. That is my goal, is every single week. So if you're all caught up or you're just tuning in for the first time, you can go back and listen to an old episode. I definitely appreciate every little bit. Like I said, it means a lot. Okay, let's dive in and I'll see you guys on the other side next week. Lauren, welcome to the Mom Existence.
Thank you. I'm really
Yeah.
excited to be here.
I'm excited too because we met through email online. I reached
hmm
out to you and wanted you to come on as a guest. And then when we had a conversation, I feel like we really had a lot to talk about and hit it off. And like that happens actually all the time where that could be a podcast episode when I have a pre-call intro call with someone. I'm just like, man, I wish I was
hmm
recording this because sometimes it's so raw and real, but we're definitely going to get back into some of those conversations. But before we dive in, can you tell everyone a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Lauren McIntosh, and I'm a registered counseling therapist candidate here in Nova Scotia. I do virtual, so I can kind of see anyone in Nova Scotia, and I also do in person out of Dartmouth in HRM. Um, I do individual and couples counseling, so I kind of see everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I also do perinatal counseling, which is what brought me here. And yeah, so I see the perinatal period is the pregnancy up to the first year after. I was thinking about this and I was like, I actually do see a little bit more than that. I would almost call it like reproductive mental health because I definitely don't want to exclude people that like might come to therapy if they're considering having a kid
Mm-hmm.
or if they're like, I think I had postpartum depression when I had my kids like 4 years ago and I don't think. So yeah,
Okay.
I see a lot of other people as well. But yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me and what I do.
This is very familiar for you then to be on these types of like
Yes.
videos all the time. Um, when did you know that you wanted to become sorry, do I call you a counselor or therapist? Just
Either or.
either or?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't have one that
Yeah.
you prefer? Okay. I feel like
Nope.
therapist just seems more general or something. I don't know. But when
Yeah,
did you
for
know?
sure.
Did you always know that you wanted to get into this type of work?
Yeah. Therapy I did. Perinatal therapy, I think specifically I think I figured out when I was finishing my master's, and I was in my practicum, and I wasn't even a mom at that point. I just had an interest in it, but I decided that I would just kind of try other things, and see what I liked. And I just so happened to come back and have an interest in perinatal therapy. And I am also a mom now, so it kind of all came together that way. But yeah, I wanted to be a therapist, I think, since high school. But
So were you like the friend giving people advice or like to hear people's problems and just felt natural to talk through it with them?
yeah, I
All
mean,
the high
I
school
don't know.
drama?
The advice I was, yeah, I'm like, I don't know if I was giving good advice, but I would definitely be the person that you could vent to or talk to.
Mhm.
But uh yeah, I always liked kind of listening and holding space for other people. But yeah, definitely in high school, I don't know if I'd be someone to give advice, but I liked being there for my friends for sure.
Oh, amazing. Okay, how old is your little one? Remind me.
Yeah, so she actually turns 1 here in the beginning of May, so
Oh
she's
my
11
goodness.
months right now.
That's
Yeah.
so exciting. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, what was your experience like, I guess, when you work in the perinatal kind of, I guess, like world with your client, your patients and clients? Do you, patients, clients? Like, why can't I find the right words to use? Do you call them a client?
Yeah, I call them clients. Yeah.
Okay. What was that like after working with them and then becoming a mom? Was it so different, or were there things or stories that you heard and then it clicked more when you became a mom because you're like, I get it now, or you just see it differently, if that makes sense?
Mhm. Yeah, I yeah, that's a really great question. I think maybe I was overthinking becoming a mom, um, because I was a therapist and because
Mm.
I was hearing all of these things, and becoming a mom was really interesting in a way that, yeah, like you said, like I get it now. I understand this, and um,
It's like
it
now
was
you're living
interesting
that
that way.
experience that people have,
hmm
spoke about for so long.
Yeah, exactly. And when I think about this, I think about the baby blues come to mind. Like, that's something that's so specific to pregnancy and to
Mhm.
having a baby that unless you've experienced it, I mean, it can be said for any mental health condition that unless you've experienced it, you don't know. But specifically for that, I was like, when I experienced it, I was like, "Oh, this is pretty gnarly. Like, this is not light stuff."
Yeah.
But yeah, but kind of as it goes for like just being a therapist, and if that's changed by being a mom, I don't really know. I think that is still something I'm kind of navigating,
Mhm.
because yeah, it's just everything has changed a little bit. So
Everything,
we will
literally.
see.
Okay, so your
Mhm,
daughter is almost 1. What
mhm.
do you like? Is there anything you like about this stage and then hate about this stage right now? Loaded question.
Yes. Yeah. She's funny and I like watching her just like interact with our dog or like now if
Yeah, they
something
they start to
happens
get that
around her, like,
personality, right? Like, more and more.
mhm. Yeah, and so I love that. She was late teething, so she only has, like, half a tooth right now, so that's definitely hard right now
Mhm.
because she is a little bit older, now she's, fussy, but a little almost, like, sassy fussy because she's getting teeth a little late. So that's definitely, tough, but yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. She's not walking, but she can power crawl kind of everywhere, so
They can. You kinda just turn. Same with when they can walk. My son is 2, and I'll see him leaving the room or he'll be doing something across the room, and then all of a sudden I look, I'm like, "Holy shit, how did you get" like, I almost walk over him. They're so fast and they're so little and quiet. It's actually insane. So, that never changes. They just get a little more nimble and, faster and faster and faster, but that's exciting. I feel like people always
yeah.
talk about, "Oh, wait till they walk," like it's, there they go, and you'll never sit, blah, blah, blah. But I actually liked it better. Crawling was okay, but when they walk and you can take them to the playground or physically
Mm.
stand them, sorry, down if you're, trying to get in the house or leaving, it's so much more freeing and they just become more independent in the most amazing way.
Yeah, definitely. I've noticed, well, she's not walking yet, as I said, but I noticed a big shift in her personality from being in that, like, kind of rocking on all fours to when she first started crawling, like, night and day. She was so frustrated when she wanted to crawl but couldn't do it, and then when she had that, autonomy and had that mobility, like, she was just so happy, so I'm very excited to see when she walks too, to see how she reacts to that, but, yeah, it's pretty cool that they are really fast.
Oh, yeah.
We're picking her up out of the dog dish, out of the dog bed, like, constantly, so
I
that's
don't
our
know what it
struggle.
is about. We don't have any animals, but we have friends that have dogs. And whenever we go over there, my son and the son, my friends that lives there with the dog and the bulls, they're like obsessed with them. I don't get it. Is it the
Mhm.
water? Maybe it's the water.
Definitely could be. She goes for the water and she's so fast. There's been times we're on the way out the door and I set her down for 2 seconds and I'm like, "Oh, now your jacket is soaked because you just put your hand in the water dish, so we gotta change," but yeah, I don't know what it is, but she's obsessed with
So
anything to do with the
funny.
dog, so
That's so sweet though. What was your pregnancy like? I don't want to say wasn't normal because everyone's are so, 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 so different. But what was your pregnancy like? Did you enjoy being pregnant or how did you feel about that?
yeah, for the most part, I did enjoy pregnancy, and I felt fortunate in that way. Were some challenges, like my first trimester, I was quite sick. That was tough, and then I did experience gestational diabetes as well, which that was tough in its own way. Like when you're pregnant, you you just want to sometimes have like some comfort food, and I had to be very, very mindful of everything. But next to that, I think I was pretty fortunate kind of with my pregnancy. It went pretty, I say smooth, but next to that, there was no big things that stick out for me that were out in the normal, maybe.
That's good because I know I had Sharon Ingalls. I don't know if you know her a while ago on, and she talked about how she just had her fourth. I think Rory's probably like 4 or 5 months old now, maybe older. That was a few months ago, but how she hated being pregnant. And I feel like
Mhm.
that is such a hard conversation that people don't like admitting that. Obviously, we are grateful to be able to be pregnant. I think that, kind of goes without saying, but I think it's hard when people are not enjoying that. And it's
It
kind of like the
is.
early days of motherhood or motherhood in general, when you are meant to feel like this is bliss. You're meant to do this and you should love it. And then
Mhm.
people are pregnant. They're like, I hate this, but I
Mhm.
don't want to admit it because I should be grateful. And this is such a beautiful blessing thing. But that's just human nature. Like, we can't, as you know, as a therapist, it's like you can't be happy all the time and enjoy things all the time. Emotions and feelings are going to happen. And especially when you're pregnant, or especially after you give birth, you're just like, your hormones and emotions, you cannot control them. They are legit roller coasters every day. Like, do you find that
Mhm.
with your clients?
Definitely.
Like, are there any, I mean, we're not going to talk into Lauren's personal clients, but it just mean kind of like in general, like, do you have a lot of people that have guilt around not liking certain stages, or are these kind of like trends that you hear about people having a hard time kind of like admitting certain things, because we are supposed to be so grateful and supposed to love things
Mhm.
so much that it is hard. It's probably easier for them to admit to you when they're working with a therapist, but in general, I feel like it's something people don't really talk about and like hold on to.
Yeah, absolutely. It is definitely super common because there's so much pressure to exactly how you said, like, we're programmed to feel grateful that this is an amazing experience. And while I can't disagree with that, it is also not going to be all daisies and butterflies. We're trained a little bit as perinatal therapists, or just therapists with perinatal training, to specifically ask those questions that might be glossed over, being like, "Yeah, I had a good pregnancy," and then maybe being specifically like, "Did you like it?"
Hmm.
And they're like, "Wow, no one's ever straight up asked me that before," and they might be like, "You know what? I didn't like it. I had a good pregnancy, but I didn't like it." So yeah, sometimes we just have to open up the conversation a little bit more because I think it's the default to be like, "Yeah, it was hard," or "Yeah, like, I liked it. It wasn't too bad," but so you have to dig a little deeper and, like, allow the space for someone to be like, "You know what? I actually didn't like it. It
Hmm.
wasn't my favorite," and that's okay. Um, I heard something on I think it was Kylie Kelsey's, podcast, actually. She had someone on and, regarding, perinatal therapy, and she said something so perfect that she was like, "A lot of things that you wouldn't enjoy, just in everyday life, like, why do we expect someone to enjoy it just because they're pregnant or have a baby?" And that would be like, in normal life, if you weren't pregnant, would you enjoy being sick 24/7 and being glued to your toilet or
Hmm.
all of that? No, you wouldn't be expected to enjoy that. So why are you expected to just ignore how hard that is when you're pregnant? So, yeah, definitely allowing the space to let people be like, "You know what? It wasn't that fun," or whatever they feel. Maybe they did enjoy it and don't feel maybe comfortable saying they had an easy pregnancy or anything as well. It's kind of there's a lot of pressure both ways.
Hmm. No, it's so true. And I feel like, I mean, I go to therapy. I recently started again, and I feel like I had one years and years ago, and they're both very different. She went and I think took like a job within the government. So she was closing down like her
Mhm.
specific um, place down. But you, and she was a little more like analytical, a little more serious. The one I have now is very conversational, and she's funny, and
Mhm.
it's easy. And sometimes I leave there. I think it's because I'm older now and I go and I just overanalyze everything. But I'm like, what? Like, does she think? I don't want to say does she think I'm crazy, because she definitely doesn't think I'm crazy. But you realize when you're having a conversation, for me with a therapist, it's like it's just a conversation. in general, I'm generalizing, unless you have like some really specific or like deep things that you want to talk about and discuss. But if you're doing it kind of as like a tune up or there's things you want to work on within yourself, I feel like just, and correct me if I'm wrong, like just saying things out loud and giving them space, like you
Mhm.
said, and acknowledging them and having someone chime in or just acknowledge them with you is kind of what it's all about in like some general cases, would you say?
Absolutely, yeah. That is a big part of perinatal therapy is they call it the art of holding, and that is just holding space and for moms and or just parents in general to have those feelings and share those feelings and just being there and allowing them to share that the tough things or the thoughts that they don't share with other people. Because it's hard to admit vulnerable things, especially when it comes to um, having a baby, things that are a little negative. It's hard, but that's not kind of the whole goal is to have a space that you can feel free to be like, you know what? I didn't feel connected with my baby when I first had them. And that's okay, kind of.
I love what you said when like using the word vulnerability because I think that is exactly what it is. It's whether it's something so in the grand scheme of things, it may be something so like doesn't even matter or amount to anything, but it's bothering you or it's weighing on you. But just to like say like this is bothering me and bring it up and have a discussion about it, and then it's just kind of like gone. And I think that is the beauty of whether you do want to work with a therapist or just telling a friend that you trust and know that you can have that conversation with or a family member. It's like just like getting things off your chest. My husband is that for me. I'd say like
Mhm.
99% of the time. And I just rant and go on and share things, but then I just feel so much better because I just physically can't keep things in. It will make me so anxious. And I think we talked about this when we first had our call is like someone like me, I've experienced some low lows and I definitely like still struggle with anxiety. I was feeling super anxious today for like absolutely no reason. Like I have no idea.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's just a bunch of things that happen and they compound and you're like, why? Why am I feeling like this? But it's I think another thing when you have a baby and you are hormonal, you are sleep deprived, you've maybe never felt a low like that or that type of stress and anxiety. And then all of a sudden you're trying to, be happy and grateful. You've had this happy baby. You guys are home. You're exhausted. Like I said, hormonal, all the things. And then that hits you is that
Mhm.
something like, does that just hit people or is it kind of like a gradual thing? Like postpartum, I guess depression and anxiety and baby blues. Did they kind of like, is it first like the baby blues happen and you're like feeling those feels and the sadness and then it gets like worse? Or can it just all of a sudden turn on for someone like at any moment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, the baby blues is definitely a lot more common. I forget the exact statistic, but something over 70% of um, the perinatal population. And I'll be specific that with baby blues, it is usually a couple days after giving birth to 2 to 3 weeks that you experience those. And baby blues are a little bit more, I don't want to dismiss them because, again, as I said, I experienced them and they were gnarly, but they're a little more mild and sadness fatigue, and they're more so related to like the hormonal drop, those big changes, the fatigue, the big life shift of having a baby. And then either for some people, that's it. After 2 to 3 weeks, they even out a little bit. They go on and things are good. For other people, that might progress into postpartum anxiety or depression. They might be like, I didn't start feeling better. I felt worse or I felt
Mm-hmm.
this continuously. And for other people, it might get better and then hit them later on. They can be onset like postpartum depression and anxiety can really come on at any point in the first year after having a baby. Um, so it is different for everyone what that looks like, but yeah, it can be kind of right away with the baby blues then transitioning into that, or it can just come on later because there's so many factors that contribute to it. So it really is different for everyone.
Yeah, and like I was saying, that was a really like long question. I tried to a big question, but before that, it was like it just hit me because my brain is crazy sometimes. Um, is like someone like me that has experienced that stuff. So when it happens, or you're having certain thoughts or feelings, you're like, if you can, I can manage it at times and recognize it. And I just cannot imagine like being happy or blissful one moment, like you're home with your baby and then just boom. Like I expected it to happen. I was a bit
Mhm.
worried. I don't know if I had the baby blues because I feel like I just was a little overwhelmed and like sad, but
Mhm.
very like intermittently. Like it just kind of like came and went for no reason, but definitely longer than 2 or 3 weeks. So I don't know if that was just postpartum anxiety or what. Like, but I think that it's hard as a new mom. Thinking back, I remember having a lot of anxiety around people holding my baby. I just didn't like want them to. I can't even explain it. Like I'm like I just don't want people passing my little baby who just came out of my body around. Like I don't really want it. And that gave me a bit of anxiety. Also, he was born in the winter, so worrying about
Mm,
germs and
mhm.
sicknesses and all those things. But I feel like I remember one of my sister-in-law saying, like, I told her I was feeling anxious about, like, we have quite a few nieces and nephews, about like everyone wanting to hold the baby and touching the baby. And she was like, you should, like, maybe if you're feeling this and it's reoccurring, I mean, she has 4 kids, so she's no stranger to this process. It's like, you should talk to like your doctor or something. And I thought, like, that is just another thing to add to my list right now. And I don't really want to talk.
Mhm.
I like my doctor, he's great, but I don't really want to talk to my doctor about it. So is that something that like if other women are listening or eventually they're in a situation and they hear this, they're feeling that way, they don't want to talk to their doctor, like they don't have to necessarily like talk to a doctor, do they? And like what would you suggest that someone would do if they were in that position?
Honestly, just you can ask in like a mom group if you're in it. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can even just look it up, just being like perinatal therapists in my area. Psychology Today is a great tool that you can find therapists in Canada and
Oh yeah, that's right. Like
specify.
there are a lot of
Oh,
online
sorry.
things. No, I was just going to say, like, I'm
Mhm.
thinking out loud. I'm like, there are a lot of online things if people don't feel comfortable talking to their. I just didn't want to like make an appointment, go see my doctor, like sit in that room and be
Mhm.
like, I don't want people to hold my baby. And he'd be like, oh, well, maybe you should talk to someone. Or, they go through the routine questions, which is normal and fine. But I think that kind of steered me away from in the beginning talking to someone. And like I said before, I just have managed when I feel super anxious and stuff. And
Mhm.
like, I would say I have decent coping skills, but it is hard when you are tired and things are new to adjust to that. Like
Mhm.
putting energy into other things. I don't know. Like, is that common? Like, do people not want other people to hold their babies?
Yeah, I kind of look at it as the difference between maybe postpartum anxiety and some common anxieties is if it is disruptive to your life. So if you're just having maybe passing thoughts, being like, "Oh, I don't really want to hand my baby off," um, those could be normal. But if you're maybe thinking about visiting some family the next day and you're up at night thinking about how you don't want them to hold your baby, if it's disruptive to kind of your life patterns, then you might be looking at something more, and I definitely would
Right.
recommend talking to someone that could help you navigate those thoughts. And yeah, you definitely don't need to go through the process of talking to a doctor and being vulnerable there just to open up again to someone new because again, as you mentioned, like that's a lot of stuff to do and you're tired, you have a lot
Mhm.
on your plate already. So just maybe finding someone online, like I mentioned, yeah, and, that seems like they might be a good fit for you, and just
Mhm.
opening up to them and seeing what they have to offer. And if they're a good fit, and not every therapist is going to be a good fit for you, and that's totally okay. You're definitely in your right to be like, I don't know if this person is for me.
Mhm.
Again, especially your time is so precious.
Yeah.
Um,
No, and you're right. And I feel like you have to, and it's not weird, I don't think, if people like have a session or talk to someone. I would give them like at least two sessions, like two or three. You know what I mean? Just to, the first one's kind of
Mhm.
like weird because it goes by like that. And I mean, like, we're not just promoting everyone go to therapy. We're just bringing awareness around like what it could do for sure. But I feel like, yeah, you have to give them a bit of a chance. And if you're feeling after a couple sessions, like, because it is expensive, and especially if you don't have coverage, it's like,
Mhm.
okay, maybe this isn't my person. And don't let that just be, or if you had a bad experience in the past, like, don't let that just be
Mhm.
your only interpretation of what it's like, because it's so different and everyone is so, so, so different. Oh my goodness, this
Yeah.
is giving me anxiety thinking, or no, I'm thinking about like if I ever want to have another child, like I hope, I think that I don't know, like I think it's just harder to do it the first time because it's having a child in general, because it's 0 to like 100 in a minute. Like as soon as that baby comes out, it's like it's go time, and trying to understand all the things and learn. And I think that was a big part for me, is trying to like you feel like you should know everything because you're a mom, and because you're a mom doesn't mean you know everything. Like you know nothing. You think you know
Mhm.
everything, and every baby is so, so different. So a lot of people, I think, put I don't know if this happened when you had your daughter, but a lot of pressure on yourself to kind of like know stuff, if that makes sense. My husband would say or ask me a question. I'm like, I don't know. Like I've never done this. Google it. Like I'm not the resident expert because I'm the mother. Like I know just as much as you know.
Absolutely. I definitely felt that way too. And it's vulnerable again to admit that you don't know something, especially if your partner asks. They're like, "Oh, is this normal?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna have to Google that."
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's okay. We're I mean, it's a slippery slope Googling all these things. I can admit that I have Googled things, and then I've been on my
Or
phone
ask a
Googling them for
friend.
45 minutes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
You're like, I'm dying. We're
But
all dying.
yeah, we're all just treading water here. And yeah, expecting us to know everything just because we had this baby is wild. That's a lot of responsibility. I mean, gosh, even now a day when there's so many options for kind of everything when it comes to how to feed your baby, what diapers to put your baby
Hmm.
in, like how to navigate diaper rash, like when to put your baby in their crib. Like that is just the tip of the iceberg of things. And yeah, just to expect that we're gonna know this from the get-go is, yeah, that's just not reasonable, and that's a lot of
No.
pressure.
You kind of forget too. I got my stroller and car seat, everything from Nurtured, and they're amazing. And they showed me it so many times how it worked. I kind of played with it. I thought I knew, but then when I was on my own once and I was going to Point Pleasant with my friend Alex, she had the same stroller. Her son came a few weeks older, or before me, he was a bit older. And I was like, I don't know how to, like, I almost broke down because I was like, I don't know how to open this. I don't know how to do anything. Like, I don't know. What do I do? And she came over and she's like, boom, here, you got this. And I'm like, thank you. Because again, I'm putting pressure on myself to know the things. And it is very, very overwhelming. And just to speak on her for a second, I was really lucky to have someone from the very beginning. Like I said, her son was 2 weeks older. We immediately started hanging out and chatting like in the very early days. And I feel like that is important. And you kind of mentioned that, like talking to a friend or a mom group or asking around, like that is literally in your life as an adult until you have a baby, you don't realize how important these things are. Like if there are groups on Facebook or Instagram, you as an adult, probably you're like, why would I need that? Like, I'm not making new friends or joining these groups for whatever reason. But as soon as you have a baby, you're it's like you're sending out the SOS flag and you have questions. Like you said, maybe don't Google them all because that could be a waste of time and give you crazy results. But like you need to talk to other moms and people that are in relatively the same situation. Like don't talk to someone, I shouldn't say don't, but like someone that is a 2-year old and a 2-week old is going to have a different perspective. So I feel like that is a vital lifeline as well. Is like just ask a friend. Did you have any friends that you made that were new friends because you guys were moms? Like, did that happen to you?
Yeah, actually, it's a funny story. I did so when I had my daughter, I had a friend that was pregnant and she was gonna have a baby, about 2 months after me, but at this point, I don't even think her daughter was born yet, so I had friends that had older children, and so I didn't really have anyone around me that had a baby my daughter's age, and we were at a golf tournament, and I was golfing, with my partner, and one of his friends came up and made a comment, and it was like, "Oh, did you see my daughter?" And I was like, "Oh, what's he talking about?" He's like, and my partner was like, "No, there was a baby up there." And after the tournament, I walked up there and I introduced myself to the mom and gave her my phone number. And I've never done anything like that before, but her baby was just a little bit younger than my daughter. And because I found out she lived in my area,
Nice.
and I just put myself out there because I had no idea what I was doing, and any sense of community in that time would be beneficial. So, yeah, I went up and I was like, "Oh my goodness, this girl is going to be like, who is this person just giving a stranger their number?" But
No, moms
yeah,
get it. I
and
feel like moms get it. There's this
mhm,
universal, like, you don't even have to say it. There's like a code of conduct, and it's like, I know what you're going through. You know what I mean? Like, you just, on no other level have I experienced that type of connection with like another mom immediately because you just know, especially when their kids are young, you're like, oh, like, it's amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, but it can be really rough and it leaves more questions than answers, I feel like, in the beginning, a lot of the time. So you feel kind of helpless. So whoever you can lean on and get like advice and just sharing an experience or saying, like, I'm having a really shitty day and like this sucks. Like, can we go get a coffee or go for a walk, whatever? But having someone else, because it is very isolating, even though you're surrounded by another little human all the time. Like, you feel, even if you have people, but you're with the baby at home a lot, it can be like a very isolating feeling. I felt that way as some of my friends went back to work around the year mark or just before. I didn't have childcare and I worked for myself. So I was like a little more flexible, trying to figure things out. And I had a hard time because everyone was back to work and if I was going to the playground or doing things, like I didn't really have anyone that I could hang out with. And I also felt like people were moving
mhm,
on with their career or their life because not any of my friends like technically like just stay at, not just, but like stay at home. Um so I feel like it I don't know how to describe it, but I did feel very lonely even around that like year to 18 months of just like a lot of confusion, which I think is probably pretty normal.
definitely.
This is now a
It
Ashley
is
therapy
isolating.
session now.
No, but you're putting it spot on about what a lot of people feel, and it is isolating. And then there's times where people might not admit that they're feeling isolated because it's normalized. Like when you have a newborn, people are around a little bit more, maybe. They're bringing you food, they're visiting. And then, kind of as you said, like that 1 year, 18-month mark, like it's hard to say, but like the novelty almost wore off a little bit, but
Hmm.
you're still struggling with all
Right.
this new stuff. For you, it's brand new and it's isolating. But I think maybe people on the outside just see the how easy you make it look, maybe
Mm.
that, oh, she's fine. She's doing it. She's going through the motions. The baby's on a good schedule, all of that. And you might
No.
actually be feeling really lonely.
And I feel like you're right. People want to come over in the beginning, and I understand it's an exciting thing. But I feel like as your child gets older, let's say like 1 to 2 years old, whatever it is, now is the time, or at that time when I really wanted people to come around more because he's more active, he's interactive, you can entertain him. He's not just being like, a little potato and sleeping, which is what I wanted to just snuggle in and be alone with him then. But now it's like, no, no, come over, entertain my baby or like my
Mhm.
toddler and like play with him. It's definitely different, but I think it's okay as moms to experience those different kind of like sets of boundaries that you might have, but it is hard to vocalize your right to people like, no, I'm still here, I'm still struggling, like just someone to even meet you for lunch, just stuff like that to like get you excited about what's next, because routine, it becomes such a routine and like mundane process, you know what I mean? Like I don't
Mhm.
know. I found it just very, I love my son and I love being with him, but I found it very, as someone that has like a very overactive brain and I'm just go, 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 I found it really hard knowing what was next and knowing I was going to be kind of bored just like sitting there. That's
Mhm.
normal, right? Tell, tell me I'm normal,
Yeah,
Lauren.
I mean yeah, I mean, for myself, I think I use a term I would go to my partner and be like, "It feels like Groundhog's Day." Like,
100%.
every day
Mm-hmm.
is kind of the same, and that's tough. I mean, maybe some people thrive with that kind of predictability in their day. I can relate to you in that it was tough to wake up in the morning and be like, "This is what we're doing today.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
7 a.m. It
what we're."
feels like
Mhm.
the day is long. The days are long.
Definitely, yeah, and the older they get, more mobile they get, the harder it is, like, that is something that I'm finding is challenging right now with my daughter versus when she was that little potato, and she would just sleep all the time, and you could bring her out places because I was fortunate that she would sleep if I brought her out somewhere, and now it's like, unless she's settled in for her nap, she's not sleeping. So
Mm. They go through so many little stages like that of you think, oh, they're not going to sleep in the car or do this or do that. And then they just like magically do it. And then they don't for a while. It's such like you just can't win. It's kind of like, what is motherhood? I don't know. I know nothing, right? And I think that we talked about this as well, and it's something that comes up a lot is that two things can be true. Um, I mean, for everyone, but especially in motherhood, that you can be so happy and so in love and overjoyed, but then you can honestly, seconds, minutes, hours, whatever it is later, be like, what have I done? Like, why is this happening? I hate this. Like, or just break down and cry. And I think that in general, people have a hard time processing that and understanding it until they actually kind of like say that out loud. Like, two things can be true at once, like all in the same time. It's really, parenting is emotional whiplash. You are trying to regulate your emotions, but then a baby or toddlers are even worse. Like trying to get my son dressed in the morning, it sounds so complainy and silly and whatever, not that complicated, but he does not want to do it. Like he screams murder. Like it's like I'm trying to murder him when I try and change his shirt. Like he hates it. I'm like, dude, just chill. Like let me change your shirt so we can go. But it's hard for me in that moment to not lose my cool and kind of keep myself calm and just be like, what does this all mean? Someone told me that. I forget who it was recently. It's like, what does this like? Might have been Gervais on one of my more recent podcasts. Just ask yourself, like, what does this actually like mean? Like, it means nothing. It means like he's being a little shit. I want to get going because I'm anxious. I need to get here. I need to do this. But it's really hard. I think that's the hardest part for me is like regulating my emotions 99% of the time.
totally, like, it the my 2 most used things that I say I think are, as you mentioned, like, multiple things can be true at once and go easy on yourself, because 'cause we're so hard on ourselves, like, of course, if your toddler is screaming and refusing to put his clothes on and you're trying to get out the door and maybe you're meeting someone, that is stressful. You might feel overstimulated with the yelling and the everything going on.
Hmm.
And then we're really hard on ourselves being like, "Oh, well, I should be appreciative." Um, I'm going out to see a friend. Like, I have this great son, but why can't both things be true at once? Like, why can't you be appreciative for your son, but also be like, you are a lot right now. I am having a hard time. Like,
Yeah.
multiple things can be true in so many areas of motherhood, especially in those new, like really new days where we have to remind ourselves that we're not going to automatically just fit in to motherhood really easily necessarily. It
Mhm. Well,
can be a transition for some people.
yeah, exactly. It's such an adjustment. And I feel like I wish I would have put more understanding around that in the beginning of not just on the baby and setting everything up at home, that I was going to go through this huge transformation. And we know it now as matrescence, something I've learned about more recently, but I didn't really think about it's going to take me 2 to 3 years to feel like motherhood was basically a part of me. And I don't want to say like second nature, but kind of just you're programming yourself and figuring things out. And it takes time because I had my son when I was 35, and that's, like geriatric, they like to say at the hospital. So I was used to my life being a certain way, doing things a certain way. And when everything's not, it can be very stressful when you're not used to, I don't want to say like getting my own way. Certainly I was getting my own way
Hmm.
because I was an adult and could do what I wanted to do, but to actually just like live my life. And then all of a sudden you can't. It takes time to put someone else, I think, before you and understand like the meaning of being a parent and like having a family. And you do learn to accept it, I want to say, and understand it and how it's a part of you. And you can't really let it take over because I feel like some kids and lifestyles can kind of like take over your household or take over you or your partner. And you have to actively stand your ground and kind of set a lot of boundaries, which also is very hard as a parent. But in the long run, I think it's going to be so much better because I don't want to lose control of my house with like my toddler. I mean, he's going to do dumb shit, but like, you know what I mean? Like going crazy because that's going to make me feel crazier. The more kind of like calmness and control I can have as much as possible, I feel like helps me.
Yeah, absolutely. You said something there that really stuck out and reminded me of something that when you have your first child, it's not just a birth of a baby, it's a birth of a mom. Like you are
Mhm.
now this novel being for yourself that you've never been before. And yeah, it's really new. And it does take a couple years to get in that groove and to figure out what works for you and your family. And it looks so different for everyone. I can definitely relate that some people are more schedule oriented, and I feel like I fit into that I do well for the most part with schedules. Again, there is those Groundhog's Day, but then for
Mhm.
some people, the schedules aren't working for them and their baby, and they're not going to know that right away. They might during their pregnancy, they might be like, "I'm going to stick to the schedule. I'm going to be this way," and then they have their baby, and they completely change their tune and just adjust to what life is like with their baby's temperament and who they are as a new mom. So, yeah, it takes it's a big adjustment.
Oh my God, it really is. And I feel like, yeah, everyone, if you're listening, just give yourself some grace. And no, it's so annoying when you hear it gets better. It gets better. Everyone says that. I'm like, I remember thinking, like, when is it gonna get fucking better? Like, what? What do you mean? But I think that the more a child gets independence, there's things that you are still carrying that mental load of being like, did you remember this? Did you do this? Put this on, right? But there are things that are a little more free flowing differently. And again, he's not 6, he's 2, but I feel like I hear that so often that people say like it gets better, it gets better. So I don't know. There's always that positive note to look forward to. Them getting a bit older, but then I feel like there's a whole new set of problems that you have to deal with. Okay, before we wrap, one more little fun question or two here for you. What is your favorite way right now? You're busy, you're back to work, you have a almost 1 year old. Like, what is your favorite way to unwind? Or like, what are you doing on a Friday night?
I am a big crafter. I
Are
love to
you?
craft. Yeah, I love it. I My most recent project was like one of the name kind of sweaters that you see that are really popular right now. I made that one of those for my daughter.
Oh, you're making
Yeah, I
her
just
clothes. Oh,
yes.
cute. Do you have one of
Yeah,
those
and
like what are they called? Like, how did you get that on there?
it was like a crochet kind of
Oh.
name, and yeah, and I crochet her hats. I took up crocheting when I was pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
Um, yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I am not doing anything exciting, but when she is asleep, I am
Crafting.
crocheting, crafting
Oh my
in
God, you're
some
like a
kind of
little
way.
Martha
Yeah.
Stewart. That's amazing. And what does a typical morning routine look like? Are you up? Is your partner up? Like, who's getting up with the baby? What time does she wake up?
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate in that um my partner is home during the day as well. We both I see clients in the evening. When he works, it's either from home or in the evening as well. So we kind of rotate who gets up with her. Day by day, it's kind of we switch off every second day. She usually wakes up around like quarter after 7 to 7:45, and
That's good.
the the
Blessed.
morning, I think, is just survival mode, honestly. Like, that is when we're just trying to get to the first nap time, and then we'll be a little
Yeah.
more organized.
That's
And
so
then we'll go
nice.
for a walk, and then we'll do stuff, yeah.
We had that same kind of dynamic in the beginning, working from home. It is nice. I feel for parents that don't have a choice, or some people want to go and leave the house, whatever works for you. But it is nice if you do enjoy working from home and you have a young family. It's like super hard, but those moments that you can kind of be a part of and cherish together, like for you and your partner, it's kind of nice because it may never happen again, right?
Absolutely, I'm really thankful for our what we have going on here and know that it is not a situation that I ever really thought was an opportunity, but we just it just happened that way that he works for himself now, and I make my own schedule, so we have made it in a way that we are home during the day a lot together, and
Mm.
which is great 99%, but
Yeah, yeah. Trust me, I get it. And I wanted to ask you, what if you weren't doing what you are doing now as a therapist counselor, what would be your dream job? And suddenly I'm thinking you might say something to do with like crafting because you said that.
yeah, honestly, I it probably would. I think about that all the time, that if I could just do anything, I'd probably have, like, a little Etsy shop, and it's something I even think about now. I'm like, "Should I do that?" But then I feel like I just put a lot of pressure on myself, and maybe it wouldn't be as enjoyable anymore, but I definitely would do that. Maybe a little Etsy shop. I'm teaching myself how to sew here soon, so
Okay. You know what? This feels like it could be in the stars for you. That could be meant to be a little fun
maybe.
project. I love that. And if people, Lauren, want to learn more about you and what you do, or your counseling, or talk to you, like what would be the best place for them to do that?
The, practice that I work for is Taylor Bridges Counseling Therapy, and you can find that at bridgestherapy.com. So I work with someone named Taylor Bridges, who is also a therapist, and she is wonderful. And or just looking up my name, Lauren McIntosh, on Psychology Today. Psychology Today is a great tool, and I recommend anyone using it um, if they're curious about a therapist or anything, because it is very detailed and you can be specific to what you're looking for. But yeah, you can find me there. I do have an Instagram. It's L McIntosh Therapy. I'm not very good at it.
Hmm,
I don't have a lot of things going on there, so I will warn you that is not very exciting. But yeah, that's those are some ways to kind of find me.
amazing. Well, it's been so nice chatting with you, and I can't wait to connect with you in person. You're here in the Halifax area, a little outside, but I hope we get to see each other, or run into each other, or have a play date. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll host like a mom existence play date with everyone, and we'll just like have a big party with all the kids.
That would be awesome. I would be there for sure.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Lauren.